Today, I will talk about a science fiction film that has just been released. It is said that this film uses a large number of worlds to get rid of green wood, and the virtual world built with it is spectacular. In addition, the British actor Eddie Martin's guest book also adds a touch of joy to the film. The story takes place in the future world in 2050, in order to solve the serious ecological system of the world. Humans began to develop genetic technology vigorously, but the result led to a sudden change in global animals and plants. The rich survive in the so-called castle city, while the poor survive in the barren wilderness. The heroine, Xiao Wei, is a little girl living in the poor world. At this moment, she is looking for food in the swamp. After a careful search, a mutated big potato was put in the bag. At this time, she accidentally found a new species, a colorful caterpillar, such a rare little animal. Take it back and study it carefully. Through the forest full of rotten smell, Xiao Wei hurried back to her home and saw a large number of wild plants in front of her. For her, 'twas not strange at all, because mutated frozen plants are a normal state. Crush the potatoes into juice, then put it in a mouth. Finally, she came to her father's room to feed her leaves and settled down her paralyzed father. She wanted to go to the lab. Although her father is a plant man, her consciousness is connected to the incubator, which means Xiao Wei can communicate with her father at any time. Entering the lab, which is damp and cold, there are various strange creatures on both sides. Open a closed space, and there are many experimental utensils in it. She put the caterpillar into the bottle and began to study it, trying to observe how it survived. At this time, a loud noise suddenly came out of the room. Xiao Wei was curious about what happened and hurriedly left the lab. "It's just a pill, bro. Come on." Xiao Wei hid beside and observed closely, and saw the dead and barren survivor, which reminded her of her mother. It turned out that her mother joined the survivors after being poisoned and never came back since then. I think it's a shame. Leave it. Just when she returned home, Xiao Wei found that all the plants in front of the door were dead. It seems that the house was robbed. She went back to the room to check quickly. Someone stole the cell body that provides electricity. It's good now. If there is no power supply, her father's ventilator will stop, and the robot's electricity can't be maintained. Xiao Wei thought for a moment and decided to find her uncle Lucio to exchange resources. When Xiao Wei found her uncle here, a strange-looking woman was knocked down by an object, and only saw her suffering. The children around her were indifferent. Lucio placed a dagger on the ground and ordered the children to kill the woman. Then, he said that this was a kind of cell-formed humanoid. They are not human, so they don't need mercy. The boy was brave enough to take action, but the humanoid turned him over to the ground first. This scene attracted the children's laughter. In Lao Qiao's eyes, they were just a bunch of cowards. After the boy killed the woman, the children around him were no longer laughing. At the end of the room, they were already numb to such a thing. Lao Qiu came to get the dagger back and took Xiao Wei back to the room. Such a cold and heartless Lu Xiao. Will he really help his brother? As expected, after Lu Xiao extracted Xiao Wei's blood, he did not provide the necessary cells and decided to drive Xiao Wei out. Unwilling, Xiao Wei came to the backyard. She went through the wire net and was about to sneak into Lao Kuao's laboratory. At this time, the plane of the castle passed by, and the sound of the bell attracted attention. Xiao Wei also rushed to the room. She pulled away the liquid from the generator and found a small room for cultivating food. This is the precious seed that Lao Qiao exchanged. Xiao Wei took a few of them as a guarantee. On the way back, the sky was filled with the sound of the machine. A plane from the castle was landing at high speed. Although Xiao Wei was surprised, she didn't think too much, because Lao Qiao's father was still waiting for him to rescue him. Soon, the electricity in the house returned to normal. Xiao Wei opened the seed and showed it to her father. But her father said it was a one-time thing. Even if the planting is successful, it can only be harvested once. However, Xiao Wei said she was confident to make it infinite. At that time, she could go to the castle by herself. Her father warned her that this was a dream. He said she belonged to the world of the poor. Xiao Wei angered her father to break his dream. She ran out of the room in a fit of anger. After a period of damp forest, Xiao Wei stopped breathlessly. At this time, she found a woman in extraordinary clothes. It seems that her legs were injured and passed out. The mutated plants around her body were sucking her blood. Xiao Wei saw that the woman was still breathing, so she saved her back, and she put a cell film on her wound. When the woman woke up, she found herself in a strange environment. She wanted to get out of bed and walk, but her leg injury made her fall to the ground. The sound led Xiao Wei to check. Through the conversation between the two, the woman came to the castle in the women's area. She and her father took the plane to destroy the forest, hoping that Xiao Wei could return to the forest to find her father. There must be heavy blood after that. At this time, Xiao Wei's father suddenly had an accident. His whole body was shaking violently. The woman came to the back of the house and lay down. Just a kiss calmed Xiao Wei's father down. The next morning, Xiao Wei returned to the forest to repay the woman. Following the traces of scratches on the ground, he soon found the location of the plane crash. Someone was trapped inside. Just when he was about to open the cockpit, Qiao rushed over with someone. It turned out that he also saw the crashed plane that day, so he searched the forest and found this place. The children opened the cabin door. An old man appeared in front of them. Qiao saw that the man was dying. He covered his mouth with his hand. Xiao Wei wanted to persuade him, but Qiao pushed him away. At the end of the room, Yu Shenggu made Qiao a monster who killed people without blinking an eye. Xiao Wei, in the cruel cockpit, Qiao found a bandage. He guessed that there might be another person in the plane. XIAOWE. I didn't tell the woman the truth. After returning, he removed the cell membrane on the woman's legs. As he expected, the wound had healed. The woman surprised Xiao Wei that she could do biological synthesis technology. Xiao Wei said, "I can do more than that." Then he took her through a forest and finally came to a place. There are all kinds of strange plants here. They not only have lives, but also seem to understand human language. And all these plants were developed by Xiao Wei. The woman was shocked after seeing it. She said that if she brought this technology to the castle, it would definitely shock the world. Xiao Wei was convinced and was in a good mood. After returning, he talked a lot with the woman. Xiao Wei took the ancient book and pointed to the cat to ask if the woman had seen it. Then they also discussed other extinct animals. Why is this place so closed off to people like us? If it opens its doors to everyone, there wouldn't be enough resources. Xiao Wei took out the ancient love letter after reading the book. At this moment, he was like finding a soulmate. He was willing to share everything. The next day, Xiao Wei couldn't help but tell the truth of the forest to the woman. Then he took her to the scene. Xiao Wei saw the body floating in the river. The woman rushed over to hug her father and cried. Shuo jumped into the river and dragged the woman ashore. Now that it has come to this, everything can only be peaceful. At this moment, Xiao Wei found a new situation. He cut the woman's hair. The cut on the neck was obvious, let me tell you. According to the woman's story, the origin of the incident came to light. It turned out that she and her father were attacked by the castle. They decided to escape to another castle to live. But as a result, the plane was attacked and dropped. Xiao Wei, who knew the truth, was in a bad mood. He hated the woman's lies. It seems that his castle dream is going to collapse. After going back, Xiao Wei asked the woman to leave quickly. The woman came to the room quietly. He took out a knife and wanted to end his life. He said goodbye to this meaningless life. The sound woke Xiaowei up. He stopped the woman from committing suicide. After bandaging the woman, Xiaowei suddenly appeared. He took a few drops of the woman's blood. He wanted to see why this huge man was different from the rest. When the cells were shown in the microscope, Xiaowei observed that the DNA was tightly wrapped by other cells. It's like being locked up. Seeing Xiaowei suffering for this, the woman sat on the bed and took out the piano keys. He said that when his father was working, he would play music. It is said that this can make people concentrate. At this time, a magical scene happened. The woman's cells changed. Music is like a key. Each note gradually opened them. Soon, the woman's DNA was released, but its shape is very similar to a plant cell. This made Xiaowei think of the seeds he stole. He took out the seeds and diluted them. Then he used a straw to put it on the microscope. After a while, the cells of the seeds actually merged with the DNA of the woman. In other words, the DNA of the woman has the same gene sequence as the seeds. As we all know, individual cells can be reproduced indefinitely. It is equivalent to saying that seeds can reproduce indefinitely. This means that humans will not worry about food. The woman suddenly realized that her father was wanted by the castle. The reason is the secret hidden in the castle in his body. The next day, old Kiao came to Xiaowei's house. The woman he had in mind was another person in the plane, for the safety of Xiaowei's father. The woman obeyed old Kiao's order and was ready to leave with him. At a critical moment, Xiaowei rushed into the room with a weapon. After a chaotic fight, the woman put old Kiao on the table with a dagger. Xiaowei also held his neck with a knife. Maybe Xiaowei was too kind. She told her uncle about her discovery. She said she would never worry about food again. As long as she mastered the technology of infinite reproduction, they would never have to trade with the castle for blood. But when old Kiao returned home, he told the secret to the castle at once. At the same time, Xiaowei was still doing research. Soon, an unexpected danger came. Her father found a strange light outside the window. He was approaching their house in a hurry. He hadn't had time to think. A group of soldiers rushed in through the gap. Xiaowei picked up a broom to stop them, but they were surprisingly fast. Just a blink of an eye, the whole room was covered with blood. Xiaowei and the woman hid on the table. When they saw the danger, they climbed to the body. The blood suddenly turned into powder. The two of them covered their noses in a hurry. That's how they escaped. His father said it was a biological weapon used by the castle. Now the situation shows that they have been exposed. Xiaowei and the woman must leave as soon as possible. This statement made it difficult for Xiaowei to accept. She couldn't have let her father stay and wait for death, but her father was angry. At the same moment, the pursuit of the castle came to old Kiao's house first. But before old Kiao could speak, a bullet sent him to meet God. Old Kiao probably forgot. In the end, nothing worthless is worth missing. After solving old Kiao's family, the pursuers came to Xiaowei's house again at the last moment. Xiaowei's father chose to sacrifice himself. Xiaowei and the woman continued to escape. In the end, the pursuers of the castle found them. When passing by a grassland, Xiaowei reminded the woman not to touch the plants on both sides. Then, the pursuers behind were suppressed. A firefly came out of the wound. It turned out that these bugs had saved them. At this time, the woman told Xiaowei that there were too many pursuers in the castle. Only by choosing to surrender can she protect Xiaowei's safety. Xiaowei didn't agree with her idea after hearing it. The woman had to hold on. The unique cells on her body made Xiaowei fall asleep. The next morning, Xiaowei woke up in the middle of the night. She returned home, looking at the burnt house for a moment. Then she squat down and took out the seeds and buried a few. Maybe this is her last thought. Old Kyo's children came over. They followed Xiaowei and set off to find the way to the new house. Xiaowei saw the desolate pursuers on the way, so she continued to walk with them. Xiaowei always had a question in her heart. She was curious about where the pursuers would bring the ruins. After a few days and nights of searching, they arrived at the residence of the pursuers. It was a mess here. The pursuers covered their faces everywhere. Standing on the 100-meter-high tower built by all kinds of garbage, Xiaowei decided to climb up and have a look. Soon, at the top of the tower, Xiaowei saw a scenery she had never seen before. The breeze gently blew by her face. The castle in the distant rich area was clearly visible. This is what the place of her dream looks like. Xiaowei took out the remaining seeds and reached out her palm. A gust of wind blew away the seeds, scattered them in the air, and welcomed the rising sun. It seemed that the hope of the poor was awakening, maybe in the near future. Xiaowei would use the skills she had to create a rich area full of poor people.